Black Mirror Season 4, Episode 1, USS Callister is one of my favorite episodes of the series. And with that, it poses a myriad of questions behind morals and how exactly the technology involved works. The main two questions for me being, 1. Is Robert Daly doing anything wrong here? Are his actions unjust? And 2. Are the people who he is technically imprisoning on the USS Callister really people? My two really simple answers, I think, are yes, maybe, and yes, maybe. But really, when it comes to questions like these, there are really no real easy answers. So first things first, this episode brings some extremely captivating points about loneliness and the thirst for power, and use and abuse of it once gained. The episode establishes Robert Daly, the co-creator of a successful video game company entitled Callister Inc., as somewhat of an empathetic man. We as an audience feel for him as we see his struggles with social situations and perhaps even a low level of anxiety. Robert Daly is even somewhat likable here. We as people who often see ourselves as like kind of bigger losers than we really are, may even see ourselves in him a bit. We see as he goes about his work days that none of his co-workers respect him. He gets made fun of despite being their boss, nobody really talks to him in a social way, and he's not really very well liked in general. As an extremely lonely man, we also see that he is very smart and capable in his own terms. He's good at his job, and it may just be the only piece of joy that comes to his life. This all takes a turn for the worse though, as of course it's revealed what exactly he's been up to, inserting these real people and copying them into his own personalized version of their popular virtual reality game. To do this, he must gain access to their DNA, which needless to say is quite creepy. Once the people he knows in real life is in the game, he then proceeds to rule over them in his own little fantasy based on one of his favorite TV shows. The rest of the episode proves that his desires are to abuse his power in this artificial world, ruling over this crew and making them play along to his sick little fantasies of being a hero. It is here where we finally see that Robert Daly is actually quite a fucked up individual. But is he? See, that's the thing. Is he any more fucked up than a 13-year-old playing Grand Theft Auto and killing as many AI non-playable characters as possible? Technically, that is all that the crew on this ship are. The copies of the people in the game are just that, non-playable characters with artificial intelligence. They are just code. They are not people, not literally. They are not physically there. They are representations of the people that Robert Daly knows in real life. Creepy? Yes. Wrong? It's hard to say. Where is the line drawn? Does respect have to be shown to a computer? What if it constantly learns new things? What if it can speak back? What if it can feel? The thing here is that personally, I definitely would call the crew on board of the USS Callister real in their own way. Though they are technically programmed clones, mere data inserted into the game, theoretically making them only simulated representations of their original person, well, I'd still say that there is enough evidence that these lives, artificial or not, should at the very least be considered beings with rights. My first reason behind that is that they have their original person's memories. We know this as they discuss what feels like to them their previous lives, even though these were never really technically their lives that they lived or knew, but the fact that Walton remembers his son and what happened to him, and even more so the fact that Nanette remembers the racy photographs she has on her phone, something that Robert Daly never knew about, by the way, proving that they have knowledge that the programmer doesn't. They have some form of intelligence and access to memories. They also prove to have original thoughts of their own, and are clearly dividing the line in terms of experience between their original real-life selves and their now artificial life forms. And most detrimental and impactful of all, they also at the very least think that they have emotion. My argument here is that with the memories of being somebody and with the ideas of emotion, that's enough for me to consider these real people in their own sense, because if feeling these emotions isn't real, if that's made up, artificial, fake, what exactly is real? In the end, the line between what is real and what is a simulation is a rather hazy one in this regard, but in the end, what is the real difference here? What is realness? What is a thought, a memory? What is a person? Technically, ourselves as definitive real people are also our own kind of randomized coding in our brains. Like the people in the game Infinity in this episode of Black Mirror, we ourselves are also based on lines of code, only it's more organic versions of this idea. Basically, my idea behind that point is that if you found out today that you're merely just a piece of data and the world around you was an exact replica of your world only simulated, would you suddenly consider yourself not to be real? See, it's confusing, that answer, because you, being alive, being you, of course, would think it's absurd to be considered artificial. But that is the exact situation for these characters in the show. They feel real, They are real, but technically they're not. But if there were an exact program copy of yourself inserted into a game like this, or even just created to be a clone of you in the real physical world, where does the line divide you when it comes to other people looking in at you? Who are you in this situation? What makes you you? To everyone else, you may look exactly the same, and there may be absolutely no difference at all. But to the people living these lives from the moment of conception onwards, the two beings differ. Their experiences from then on make them who they are, even with all the memories. So I'd argue that not only are the people on the USS Callister real people, I'd argue that they're also their own people too, beyond just being the original people that they were based upon. So, are the people on board really alive? Well, I don't know, but I feel that perhaps that's not the point. The fact that Robert Daly knows that they are acting, he knows that they are aware of the game that they're playing, that they have the memories of who they once were, and that their emotions are at the very least very quickly, realistically simulated, makes it so if that he were a decent man, he would find sympathy in their predicament. But he plays along if only to amuse himself. The fact that they clearly don't want to play along and feel pressured to act out his fake little television episodes for him is enough evidence for me to decide that he's bad enough to be considered at least somewhat evil. This is definitely up a notch when compared to the 13-year-old playing Grand Theft Auto, because there are real emotions here, real people that he actually knows in real life, and yet he is entirely extracted from the situation, coming and going when he pleases, if not just for a fucking pizza, while they are stuck for what may well end up being eternity. But the argument still remains, and it's still a hazy one, because even still, they are still just pieces of coding, data, whatever it is that makes them what they are. It's made up, it's artificial. How far can the line be drawn? How advanced does the technology have to get until it's too far gone? It's an interesting question with no real definitive answer. Robert Daly is an interesting character piece that makes commentary on power, and the whole episode overall has a swing at gaming culture and loneliness, all while presenting us with a cool piece of technology that never seems that far out of reach, making this yet again another hauntingly close to home episode. USS Callister holds up as one of my favorite episodes of the series, and if you haven't seen it yet, it's a captivating episode of television.